Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Two Asian Blokes podcast, a podcast where we talk about Asian pop culture, films, TV shows, comic books, anime, video games, food, music, whatever we're feeling at the time, really. My name is Dan with the H, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Tavi. Hi, Tavi.
Hey, Dan. Finally, we're talking about Asian movies, you know.
A bit of a change of pace for us.
A bit of a change, yeah. This the whole plan of this podcast, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, we've been doing a bit of mainstream stuff as of recently. So you must be pretty stoked about today's episode.
Yeah, it's kind of refreshing to do, some more obscure niche stuff,
By that you mean good stuff.
Yeah. Before we sell out again, because I think Twice and Blackpink are having to come back, and we've officially sold out and done K-pop reaction videos now. So
at least it's fun. We're having a good time selling out.
Yeah, we're having a good time. Yeah. It didn't take us very long, not even a year until we sold out. We did K-pop, we did Marvel.
We'll do it all, just as long as you guys love us. We'll do whatever you want, I swear.
Yeah, I was talking to Dad, and I just said, "Oh yeah, no more Hollywood stuff for a while." Like we look back and what is it? It was Miss Marvel, Resident Evil, and a Bullet Train.
Yep.
And it's like, it's a little bit exhausting to just like talk about three things that I didn't particularly enjoy. But at least like with Bullet Train, I got to read like the novel, which was pretty good, and like looking forward to reading the what was it? Three Assassins? Yeah. I'll probably get onto that once I finish reading whatever I'm reading at the moment.
Yeah, I've got a bit of stuff to read before I get to that. Yeah. But yeah. I hope you've gotten all the complaining out of your system. I hope you feel refreshed and looking towards life with a more upbeat attitude.
I'm just a bitter human being. No, it's pretty good. But yeah, no, I've mentioned before in quite a number of episodes how much I've enjoyed Taiwanese cinema recently. So we're covering the Taiwan Film Festival 2022. We didn't watch as many movies this time around because this was a we were busy watching
Resident Evil and Miss Marvel. So we didn't get around to them.
Yes. But they weren't streaming, but yeah, we caught a couple. So the films we're covering today, Till We Meet Again, directed by Giddens Ko, who I've seen a number of his movies. Probably talk about him when we talk about that movie. And then A Leg, directed by Chang Yao-sheng, who is the screenwriter for A Son, which I talked about maybe a few episodes back now. So he collaborates a lot with Chan Man-hon, it seems. So yeah, that was the reason I kind of was gravitated towards these two movies, because I kind of know some of the cast and some of the people that work behind the movies.
So Chang Mong-hong, was he the director of A Son?
Oh yeah, he was the director of A Son and The Falls, but he was the cinematographer. Yeah,
this film. Okay,
and I think a co-writer as well. So he helped write. But yeah, like you can kind of see like a similar vision in this movie with other Chan Man-hon films.
But this is Chang Yao-sheng's directorial debut, right? This movie.
That's right, yeah.
Okay. Shall we start with that one then, or?
Yeah, I guess, we've kind of segued into it, so let's start off with A Leg.
Are we doing this spoiler-free, or?
Yeah. Let's keep it spoiler-free.
Yeah.
But if there is spoilers, we'll let you know. Okay. Because, you can just never trust us because we're just not
we don't really keep track of what we're saying. But I mean, there's not too much to spoil in these films. I think we can. It's pretty easy to avoid any major spoilers. Well, I mean, just as a note, I quite enjoyed both of these films. So I think you'll hear less complaining from both of us than our past couple of episodes.
I enjoyed both these movies quite a bit. So A Leg is it's billed as a dark romantic comedy drama It's basically about these two ballroom dancers, husband and wife team. At the beginning of the film, you find out that the husband, he passes away, and due to like a fault from amputating his leg, and you don't really know why. But they had to amputate his leg, and he goes into a coma and dies. And his wife spends basically the rest of the movie trying to go through bureaucratic red tape to get his leg back, the amputated leg, which is a pretty strange premise for a movie. I remember watching the trailer for this movie, and it's like the trailer is very misleading. It's the trailer bills it as a very touching, swoon-worthy romantic film.
Okay.
With a lot of feels. And there is feels in there, but it doesn't really illustrate the
humor?
Yeah, the dark humor. Like we were saying, how, Chen Mong-dong and Yao-sheng kind of collaborate a lot together, and also the director of Classmates Minus, which I think we posted about on Instagram. Yep. So those guys share a very similar tone towards their films. Okay. There's this dark humor element to it, but it's pretty different from let's say Korean dark humor. It's a little bit less slapstick. And it's kind of just I find it honestly really hard to explain.
It's almost similar to a Western black comedy, I think. It's got it had kind of a tone of if you've ever seen Death at a Funeral.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of that. So it's probably less slapstick. I want to say less grimy than Korean dark humor as well.
Yeah. It's because this movie has I guess some gore, but it's not really, let's say, the sadness.
It's not over the top. It's it makes sense in the context of whatever's happening in the film. It doesn't seem exaggerated at any point. Because she is looking for a severed leg, so there you do see some body parts in the film. So, but it's not to the point of exploitation, I guess.
Well, you mentioned to me yesterday that one of the boys from The Sadness is actually in this movie, which I didn't recognize.
The main sad boy is in this film. He's got a pretty comedic role in it as well. That
scene, because basically the lead was it Kian Yu-ying is her name.
Her character's name is Mrs. Kian. Miss Kian.
Kian.
Sorry
Miss
about
Kian.
our pronunciation. We're not.
It's not. Sorry, we're not the best Mandarin speakers. So sorry if we fuck things up a bit.
But the husband and wife, the wife is referred to as Miss Kian, and the husband is Mr. Zheng.
Yeah, Zheng. So Kim, she tries to get the leg back, but the hospital seems to have kind of misplaced it or something, and then they're trying to get rid of her originally in the hospital, and then these security guards come, one played by the Sadness dude, who with this really ridiculous looking wig, and it just
it's like a curly perm.
Yeah. And that's basically the humor, is that he just looks silly, which is if you think about it, it's not the cleverest humor, but it just kind of works with the tone of the situation, because it's her husband has pretty much just passed away 4 hours just before this point of the movie,
right?
Because she wants to get the leg back so she can cremate him together so he can pass on to the next life whole. But this dude just comes out with this curly perm, and then these cops come who have come from separate calls, and then there's this weird sort of power struggle between the cops, and they're just arguing with each other, and it's just the situation. It should be a serious situation, but I could kind of see this playing out almost as if this was a real thing.
And all the characters in this situation are quite stoic as well. They're they're playing it pretty serious, but in doing so, it just elevates the humor a bit. And they do like his hair is not a focus, but they do make little quips about his hair as they're like trading insults with each other.
So I'm just thinking about it now, and it's just ridiculous. This dude's hair, it's just a curly perm.
But it is like a nice little touch from the writer and director, like, because it's an easy thing to not put in, but just adding it in there just adds another element of humor, I guess. But there is also like amidst the humor, there is an emotional core to it. So the whole movie has two timelines. One is Ken trying to get her husband's leg back from the hospital after he's passed away, and the other timeline tells a story of how the couple met initially, and how basically it tells the events from their first meeting till the day that he passed away, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's cutting kind of back and forth between these two stories and timelines. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like fairly realistic portrayal of a romance. Despite what the trailer might have led you to, it starts off with it being a very kind of idealistic marriage, but then, their marriage kind of deteriorates, An interesting element is that he is narrating most of the movie, despite you knowing that he is dead.
Yes.
So I thought that was an interesting touch. But basically, you kind of find that he wants to do the best for his wife, so he kind of, gets into a bit of trouble with like gambling.
He's a bit of a dumbass, isn't he?
He's a bit of a dumbass. And there's quite a few. I might mention it later, but there's like a final like kind of thing where it's just like very unfortunate, if you remember. And it's just like, oh fuck. But yeah, it kind of tells that story. But then we'll cut back to Ken, looking for the leg, and she has kind of a ridiculous journey of her own. She's interesting because like you follow her and you sympathize with her,
but at the same time she's being a bit of a Karen.
Yeah. She just like keeps like hounding this hospital staff. To like I think it's Dr. Gao. He's like the main guy, and she just like keeps following him.
She's basically harassing all of the staff until she gets her way, right? And like you do feel for her because she's just lost her husband, and she's obviously quite emotional. But the way she goes about it is like if you were an employee at this hospital, you would feel pretty annoyed.
I think they balanced the kind of I guess the Karen behavior but it doesn't get like too like rough where you just like you despise her. Right. So I guess like
and not everything goes her way as well. So like she's trying her best, but it's still like the hospital misplaces the leg, and like she has to harass Dr. Gao, but Dr. Gao kind of sends her in a different direction, and so like she's trying her best, but things aren't exactly going her way despite her efforts. And I think she's also quite a charming character, so that makes you not dislike her, even though some of her behavior can be seen as quite annoying.
They develop her well. So I guess take note, Resident Evil writers.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I didn't want to mention Resident Evil again so soon because wounds are probably still a bit fresh, Tavi. But Resident Evil also has that thing of like switching timelines and jumping back and forth between the two timelines. And as demonstrated by that show, it's not an easy thing to pull off without messing up the pacing of your show. And without messing up the narrative. But I think this movie pulls it off pretty well. Like, the jumps back and forth serve to deepen the story, I guess, and make it a bit more intricate in an organic way. Obviously, we're at the start of the movie when her husband dies and she is quite upset. That's a natural response to a loved one dying, right? But then as you see more of the flashbacks and you see more of him fucking up their marriage and more of how like she should probably be more pissed off with him, it kind of grows the audience intrigue as to why she is trying so hard to get his leg back if he was such like a douchebag during their marriage, you know? So it kind of, both plot lines kind of serve to add to each other. rather than detract from each other as it does in Resident Evil.
Yeah. Well, I think like despite showing those rough edges of like married life and infidelity and whatnot, there is still like a love between them that they cherish. And I guess like the leg, the rotting leg is kind of the metaphor for their marriage deteriorating, but it's something that she still wants to keep hold of, you know, despite all the flaws from the husband. Like she still loved him, which is like it's a complicated thing because you hear a lot of people who probably have had partners who are not the most faithful or complete jackasses. In this case, this guy is a bit of a dumbass, but like, she still loves him, and like you can't really explain why, but there's just a kind of just connection between them.
And it all kind of culminates at the end of the movie. Like you come to understand why she does try so hard to reunite him with his leg. Yeah, you're right. It's a good and accurate portrayal of a flawed love story. Yeah, it's not perfect, but the love is there.
Would you say this is almost like an anti-romance movie almost?
It's kind of tough because they love each other, and for that reason she forgives a lot. But I think from a Western perspective, it's probably not the best message to take away because he gets away with a lot. You know what I mean? It's almost like it's almost to the brink where it could be considered a toxic relationship and something that she should just give up. But the fact that she still loves him and that's why even in death, she's trying so hard to do one last thing for him. It kind of sends a message that you can be terrible to your wife, but if she still loves you, it's all good. So
I think I don't think that's really the message, though.
It's not. It's definitely not the intention, but I think, especially from a Western point of view, you could kind of perceive it that way. I think some people might get the wrong message from...
Well, I think it's just a normal relationship, really, whether that's good or bad. But I think it's pretty honest, not everyone is going to be a complete saint to your loved ones, and this shit probably happens a lot more than it should, but it's kind of, I guess, that's maybe probably how it is. I wanted to talk about one of the funniest scenes in the movie for me was the hospital, the president of the hospital kind of comes to a compromise, and so does Gin. She kind of comes to a compromise to make a wooden leg made from this really fine wood from this Buddhist temple. That's 1,000-year-old pipe, the best wood. So
made by a master craftsman.
So she kind of agrees to that. So they make this leg for her, and she goes to meet the craftsman. And is I can remake your husband's leg with the finest detail. All I need is a picture, and he makes it. And then she this leg is in this on this table, and it looks realistic but also very uncanny.
Just how it's a little bit. It's kind of grotesque in a way because it looks too much like a real human foot.
And I think that's the perfect prop for that scene, because Kian, she says this isn't my husband's leg. It looks almost looks more real than my husband's leg, but it's not. The president has been kind of kiss-assy, really nice to her, and then he kind of just explodes.
He just snaps.
It was really, really, really funny.
Because he went out of his way. So he got the master craftsman on board. He got the wood, the really good wood. Made this foot for her, and she was on board up till the point where she heard that they were going to be cremated together, and then she goes on a tangent of when humans are burned, it turns into bone ash, but when wood is burned, it's just ash, and it's like not the same. And then the hospital director's reaction is so funny
because you can kind of you definitely feel for the hospital staff as well, as we said before, like. It's a bit like bedside manner, you gotta want to be nice and stuff. But like, it's just, there's a point where you just snap. And then after that, she kind of just keeps harassing more people. Like the dude at the office, I think towards the end of the movie, where the Jeep, and that guy's like, building frustration. It's just like, just fucking go away. She just doesn't. It's kind of, and she sort of like seduces him into giving like the location of, I think, one of the dump trucks that's about to like get rid of the leg.
Right.
What did you think about like kind of the? I guess there's like a kind of there's a gotcha moment, I suppose. Which is,
you mean the end of the film? Yeah, I guess we can drop a spoiler warning for the end of this film, which is pretty good. Like, if you have an opportunity to see it, I would definitely have a look at it, especially if you like dark comedies.
Yeah, definitely. I'd 100% recommend this movie.
Very easy to watch as well. Like, the pacing is good. It's quite funny. And all the performances are... Yeah, I think so.
For me, it was very easy to watch, but I think the premise is quite strange for like people.
I think maybe you were thrown off by the trailer, Tavi, because when I was watching it, I was like, okay, this is what kind of movie it is. And I settled into it pretty easily.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a pretty different movie though. Like, for this circle of filmmakers, like it's nothing I've really like ever really seen before. Like, there's a lot of like really like saturated colors, and they use a lot of those like kind of shutter speed.
Yeah, they do. They do that a bit. That Wong Kar-wai thing.
The dream sequences. But it's just like, but then its use of like Western music is actually quite interesting, which they do a lot in like, in The Sun or in The Falls. Like, Western music, as in like, it almost sounds like old Western music. Like, there's a lot of like trumpets and like kind of like a high noon showdown. And it's I think it's definitely weird, I think.
Yeah, it is. It's quirky, I'd say.
Yeah.
But yeah, the scene you're talking about, so upon when he realizes that there's something wrong with his foot, he goes to see a doctor, and a doctor says it's probably bone cancer. As like a final gift to his wife, I guess, he does some health insurance fraud with the help of his friend, and he ends up buying like a lot of cancer insurance. But the gotcha moment that you're talking about is when he does end up in the hospital after collapsing due to problems with his foot. He hears that it's actually not cancer, and he's actually going to die from septicemia, which is totally unrelated to the insurance that he bought. So that's like the final dumbass thing that he's done on his deathbed.
This is really funny, like, musical sting. And it's like, it's a really funny moment, but it's also like a super tragic moment, like, at the same time. And you just kind of see it in his face, and it's just like, oh, shit, I fucked up.
Yeah.
And then he just dies, basically.
And his wife doesn't get a penny.
She gets a call. It's like, I got a call from the insurance company. Like, they're not giving us jack shit.
For some reason, he bought like $20 million worth of his cancer insurance. I don't know why he did that. He's just dead.
It's definitely like dark humor, but it's kind of like, it's, again, we said it's not really like kind of gritty, grimy, dark humor that we'd probably see in like a Korean revenge movie. It's kind of just like, oh, well, that's life. Or
A lot of it is kind of like, it's kind of like really sad situations, but just delivered in such kind of like a deadpan manner and just a matter-of-fact manner, I guess. Like there's another bit quite early on in the movie where they're about to amputate his leg, and he's on the operating table, and the doctor says, we put you on local anesthetic so you won't feel anything, but we can put you under if you want to. And he's like, nah, I'll stay awake. And then the doctor's like, okay, while you're awake, let me explain the procedure. Usually we use this kind of saw, but actually I prefer this kind of saw. And he's like showing the instruments to the guy. And the guy, and Zheng's face is just like deadpan. And he's like, doctor, actually, I'll take the medicine to the
That's a very interesting choice. Like, I'm not a doctor, obviously, but like the first choice, just put that guy to sleep. Like, you know, but
well, I guess the idea is like if you get put to sleep, I guess there's a chance that you might not be able to come back out. So
maybe it's true. I think it just kind of falls in line with his character, who is just constantly met with misfortune. Like he has a South Park moment where like he gambles and he wins, and then this dude's like, "Hey, you can win more." Like with Texas Hold'em, and it's like, "I'll give you 2 days," and the guy's like, I didn't even need a day, like I went back like straight away, and then he loses all of his money, and then it's just like it's just kind of, you know, that I guess, you know, that moment was obviously greed.
But like it's almost like the humor is almost too subtle to grasp immediately. Like that at that point when he went and played Texas Hold'em, and then he ends up signing like owing a lot of money. Like I didn't immediately realize that is what had happened. You know, I thought like, oh, maybe he won some money again, but like him signing the papers was like signing an agreement to pay back his debt or whatever. But it was delivered in such a way that like it was almost too subtle for me to get immediately.
I think I didn't get it immediately either until I saw that he was on the run. It was like, he fucked up.
And there was another part where he tries to jump off the balcony to escape the gangsters, and then he's caught by the gangsters, and is like. And then the next scene is like him underwater with like, and there's like firecrackers going off above him. And again, it was delivered in such like a casual manner, like this terrible thing that's happening to him that I didn't immediately grasp what was happening. It was only when I saw like the character of the gangster there that I was like, oh, okay, he's getting tortured right now. It's effective humor, but at times I think because it is so subtle, maybe it does lack a bit of a punch, maybe. Or maybe I wasn't paying enough attention. It could be that.
No, the humor is pretty like frequent. If you watch Classmates Minus, there's a lot of scenes like that where the humor is very subtle. That movie is not as dark as this one, I don't think. But there's a lot of like little bits of subtle humor. None I can remember off the top of my head. I guess it was probably too subtle that I can't even remember that many. But yeah, I think it's just like these guys' style of humor. I think a leg is probably, as you said before, I think it's quite easy to grasp. And you kind of know the tone once you watch it. Like you get into it and it's this kind of movie.
And I think it's a good looking film as well. Like I enjoyed like the different kind of feels of each scenes. Like I think it's something to do with the coloring, but like the hospital scenes are always really washed out and sterile, whereas like the flashback scenes where they're falling in love especially are quite colorful, and they do feel more like a Wong Kar-wai film. But then even those scenes kind of like the color kind of deteriorates almost as their relationship deteriorates as well. Their love story ends up in the hospital again. So like, it's pretty cool to look at.
Deteriorates to the degrading, washed out hospital look. But there's like the scenes where like, you know, she's like looking for the leg in the the chamber. It's pretty gross. It's interesting because it's a pretty rough subject matter, and there was like chances for this movie to be quite grisly, and I think there's only really one bit where you might get queasy. Is like you do see the leg, and it's like the stump part where it's been cut off. But I think I liked how the film held back probably on the grisly aspect of it, and you probably won't actually hear me say that a lot because you know I do like my dose of ultra violence in films, but I think for this one it suits the tone quite well, and I think you don't really need to have it be that gratuitous. So yeah, it's just think about it. I guess it's a pretty accessible film. yeah, I definitely recommend this one to get into your Taiwanese cinema.
Yeah, same. It's good.
Yeah. All right.
Shall we move on to the next film?
Yeah, the next film is Till We Meet Again. This was an interesting movie. It's basically about a guy who finds himself in kind of Buddhist, I wouldn't say Buddhist heaven, kind of Buddhist purgatory, where he has a chance to reincarnate himself, but he's got like not enough karma points, so he ends up like working as a worker for this like world of the dead. I guess it's kind of similar to that Korean movie Along with the Gods, which I did watch. Similar premise, but this one's kind of like a romantic fantasy comedy, I guess. And he meets up with this other girl in the heaven. Bit of a quirky character, I guess. I was really excited to see this movie because I like Giddens Ko movie. It's called You Are the Apple of My Eye, which is it's a high school romantic comedy, but it's really funny. And it's got like surprisingly crude humor at points, which you see in this movie. And I really like the premise of this movie, how like the afterlife is just like a bunch of workers running on like early thousands technology.
It's pretty fun. It's got kind of a Beetlejuice vibe to it, eh?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Beetlejuice.
Yeah, it's very like you're dead, but you got to go through all this bureaucracies still.
Yeah. I like that idea. I think it's funny. I was also looking forward to it because I'm a fan of the actress who plays Pinky.
Gingo Wang.
Gingo Wang. Yeah, she was in The Falls, which I mentioned in one of my recommends episodes, and she was in this movie called Detention, which is arguably the best video game adaptation I think.
Okay.
But yeah, no, she's a really good actress, and I was like, oh yeah, this would be a pretty interesting pairing. Yeah, the lead actor, he was in the first Giddens Ko movie. But yeah, this movie is quite interesting because it's a pretty like fast paced, wacky romantic comedy, but then there's like these horror elements that I didn't really expect.
Well, yeah, the subject matter is death, the afterlife, and ghosts inevitably end up in it. I think I was surprised by the horror elements as well. Because the setup is quite light. Yeah, like even though this guy's died, like the way he dies, even he gets struck by lightning and is killed. So all the character introductions are quite quirky. You get introduced to the main, and he's kind of like a funny, goofy guy, and Gingo Wang's character Pinky is also quite cute and quirky. So yeah, when you do get introduced to like the antagonist, I guess it's quite scary. And kind of random too.
I do want to kind of talk about that a bit more, but the antagonist is kind of this like 1,000-year-old dude who was betrayed by like his band of army guys who poisoned him because he was a bit of a vicious mofo, and then he's kind of seeking his revenge. I don't remember exactly how I guess he's just escaped from the pit of, lost souls or whatever.
Well, he, after dying, he became one of the guardians of the underworld, I guess.
Like
I think
Oxface,
there are two of them, Oxface and Oxhead and Horseface. And I think he was the original Ox head. He was working as that for a while, but he just couldn't let go of his resentment towards his team of bandits that betrayed him.
I guess I must have missed that. Yeah,
that's why he's kind of like ditched his job and gone AWOL to the real world to try to get revenge.
It's interesting because I wasn't expecting this kind of other like B plot involving like this fucking 1,000-year-old general or whatever, and then he like possesses this kid and makes him like brush his teeth until blood starts seeping out. It's like, oh fuck, it's pretty ghoulish actually. A lot of the there's a lot of Buddhist symbolism and obviously
and mythology.
Mythology.
That is pretty interesting. I like the interpretation of it.
Yeah.
And I like that it wasn't, like, none of it felt over-explained as well, but you could still follow what was going on. Like, I don't know that much about the afterlife theology in Buddhism, and
Yeah,
you know,
neither do I. Yeah.
but I didn't find it hard to follow any of, like, what was going on in the film. I think they explained enough of it without bogging the audience too much in like exposition. Yeah, like the main characters, Pinky and Alan, they become gods of love in order, so they basically get a job as gods of love.
Because they need to correct their karma. Basically, they've got these beads that show them how much, like, good karma they have, and they both don't really have very much.
Yeah.
Like, they could be reincarnated into, like, a snail or a roach. And this is a really funny, like, little quiff about, like, Pinky being like a sea turtle killer because she uses straws. Yeah, so, like, they both start off with, like, you know, as a rocky, you know, there's that typical, like, they both hate each other at the start relationship.
Yep.
And, like, I think the first plot point that starts this movie off is, like, Alan getting struck by lightning, and, like, a lot of they can't get his memory back because
his brain got messed up by the lightning.
So it kind of that, like, you know, plot devices to use it so they can, you know, build up the world and his relationship with Pinky. And for the first half or first 40 minutes of this movie, like, I was, like, really enjoying it. You know, I kind of liked the horror elements that came in there. I really liked the relationship build-up of Alan and Pinky. There's a kind of this really strong anime-like energy to it, which is very enjoyable to watch. And I think, like, Asians kind of just get a pass on doing that kind of thing, unless it's Scott Pilgrim.
To a point, I think. Yeah, they are pretty cutesy characters.
Like, it's a very cute movie.
Except for all the horror.
Except for the horror, and, you know, Pinky's got a pretty interesting backstory. You kind of find out, you discover how she died. I think she, like, this, like, gangster dude, or this dude just, like, drugged overdosed her or something. But yeah, like, you know, there's a really fun, like, dance montage scene that has baby metal, which I'm like, this is cool. Like, I'm really enjoying this, and I think there's like a shift, I guess, into the second act where Alan gets his memories back when he comes across, like, a dog, and then it gets more into the love story aspect of him finding, you know, his past flame, and then all the memories come back to him.
Yeah.
After that point, the movie started to lose me, I think.
Okay.
I didn't really like the second half as much. And I think I realized that there is almost too much going on, because you've got this 1,000-year-old general guy, then you've got these two elite captain dude guys, and then they have to cram in all this backstory for his girlfriend. And they use a lot of flashbacks, which is fine. You know, I was emotional, but then they kind of spam quivering lip a lot in this movie in the second half. And, like, you keep using those emotional beats, you kind of get numb to it.
The actor that plays Alan does, like, a really messy cry at one point. Like a really snotty, like, cry. I think it's when he first sees
he comes across the dog, Kurumi.
But I think the second act, I think it revolves around that kind of reunion between Alan and me. I can see what you mean. Like, there might be a few too many elements in it. And I was also going to talk about the B plot, I guess, as you called it, with the general and the horror elements involved. I was going to ask you, do you think any of that was necessary to this film?
That's a good point, because, like, I like those horror elements, and I was pleasantly surprised to see them, but also I think it was,
like, from a narrative point of view.
Yeah, narrative point of view, it doesn't really work. It's like a different movie, you know? It's a different story. But taking it away from that a little bit, like when I was watching all this ghoulish stuff, I'm like, this is quite different from Giddens Ko's original vision, because it's pretty violent. I'm like, where did this come from? Like this kind of Sam Raimi like violence, you know? And I was talking to you last night. I watched this other Giddens Ko movie called Monsters. It's not a great title, but this movie, I think it's on Shudder. You can catch it on there. It's completely different. Till We Meet Again is quite sentimental. Monsters is the complete opposite of sentimental. It's like, to go into a little bit, it's just about like this school kid who gets bullied the heck out of, and it's like one of the most oppressive movies I've ever seen. And it, like, they come across like this monster and they like kind of kidnap it and like torture it, you know, fun stuff. But I was reading about Giddens Ko, who was in a scandal because I think he cheated on his 9-year long like girlfriend or something. And then like there was a scandal and like everyone like hated him, and, like, you know. So when he made that movie, his goal was like, I want to scare everyone because everyone hated me. Like, I want to kind of piss off everyone else. So his vision for that movie is the high school is the most unsentimental thing possible, and everyone in that movie is just a bad person. And it's quite funny because it's a pretty violent movie. So I was like, oh, okay, so this is where that vision comes from until we meet again. So it's probably just like leftover rage.
Could be. You know, maybe he just enjoys the more horror.
I think so now. It must be, you should check that movie out. Maybe we can talk about it someday, because I think it's a very interesting movie.
Sounds
but it's like,
hard to watch.
It's oh man. But yeah, back to Till We Meet Again. Yeah, I think there was just too many elements in this movie where, like, and this might be a bit of a bias of mine because I do like Ginga Wang, but I think Pinky was a much more interesting character than Xiao Mi, because they built her up, you know, in that first 40 minutes. I mean, you do see Mi here and there, but you don't really know why this girl is being shown until the connection in the middle. But like, yeah, you know, I kind of wanted to find out how like she like ended up in that life, you know. I think she's got a much more interesting backstory. I think the chemistry was better. You know, you kind of see more elements to her. She's like extremely goofy.
Yeah,
and then
she's definitely more of a flawed character than is presented in Me. I think more like they needed Me more for the romance plot, though. Like they could have developed something more between him and Pinky, but you know, like a triangle is always going to be better than you know, just two people. And I think they also wanted to emphasize, like, they wanted to tell a story where love was going like between the realms of life and death. So in order to do that, they needed somebody that was alive.
I think, and they could definitely do that, but I think there's just like because of all the horror elements and that whole B plot, they lost a bit of time to probably show Pinky more. Like, you can definitely have that triangle, and
it was there, but it wasn't that. It wasn't really a huge focus. Like, it did share a lot of the spotlight with the antagonist, which to be honest, for me, I would have taken that antagonist out of the film. Like, I would have taken that element out. It was cool to look at. Like, I really like the effects and the visual stylings of all of that. But it didn't fit in the film tonally, and I don't think it really fit in the narrative that well either. Because like all that character really amounts to is to put danger on Me, and like produce this kind of threat of death where there wouldn't really be a threat of death without him, but they could like quite easily manufacture a threat of death for me if they tried, without having to introduce this whole like side plot of like bandits and
yeah. I mean, I think they already had that, because like Pinky does get jealous and she like kind of rats on them, and that could have kind of led to something.
Yes,
because like her arc is kind of solved instantly almost, like, because she does kind of find the dude that murders her, and then they make him like fuck a motorcycle, which is pretty funny.
I think that's a crude element of humor that you were talking about, right?
It's weird because like the movie is hang on, we'll wait till
Mad Max is over.
All right, okay, so like it's because this whole movie, as I said, like it's a very like it's a pretty cutesy romance film, and it's quite a light movie, but then there's like these very odd tonal shifts where it's like adult humor, because it happens in You're the Apple of My Eye as well. That could be a very like easy, like, you know, teen high school romance, you know, a la Tall Girl or whatever. But then there's just like this scene in that movie where like him and his friend are having like a masturbation off in the classroom. The way that it's shot looks really funny, because they're like looking at their teacher and they're like trying to like jack off underneath the and it's really, really funny. And I'm like, you wouldn't expect it with the tone of the movies. So I thought it was quite funny. And you even see like the fucking, in Till We Meet Again, you see like the semen that's on the exhaust. I'm like, whoa, that's just Giddens Ko going extra.
Gross.
But yeah, like this movie, it does devolve a lot, because if you think about it now, like they do use flashbacks a lot, and they reuse footage a lot to like emphasize like an emotional beat. It kind of drags the movie out, because the movie is like 2 hours and 7 minutes. And you know me, I love my fucking 3-4 hour films, but I think in this film they were just padding it. And I was just like, I get that you're sad, man, but like, you know, it's you've quivering lipped a bit too much, you know.
I definitely feel like the first half was the strongest. I really enjoyed like the world building in it.
Me too.
And just like the look of the afterlife is quite fun. And it does come back into play like in bits and pieces in the latter half of it, but a lot of the latter half is more set in the real world, which I just found a bit less interesting. And like pretty much the only interesting parts, or I mean the most interesting parts, I should say, in the real world were like the horror stuff. Like there's some really cool stuff in there. Like you mentioned he possesses a child, and like the stuff that the child does is really creepy, and the bit in the restaurant where he's like taking control of this guy and he's trying to stab me and
stabs the shit out of the waiter. Poor guy, just rocking up to work, and now he can't even be reincarnated. He's just dead for good. There's like a death beyond death. In this,
where you just disappear from existence.
So that guy, man, it's probably just like a college student, was, you know, trying to see if this guy's all right. Like Korean style. And now he's dead. Not like he's dead. Like
he's like no respawn death, permadeath.
Not even becoming what they call it, a immortal jellyfish. Not even a snail. Not even a roach or a sea turtle. Just dead. Just nothing. It's just like, it was quite brutal. I was like, oh fuck, that's a damn.
But that was a cool scene.
It was a cool scene.
And I mean, I like the little nod to Toshio and Sadako as well.
That's fun. Right. That scene is really funny. So
there's a lot of good stuff in the second half, but I feel like it was more closely linked to the horror elements, which again I feel was not really necessary to the narrative of the film. So I'm not sure like which I would kind of get rid of, because if it's a choice between like what is more visually entertaining versus what would make the story flow better, like you can't really choose between the two, right? You just have to like I think my gut would say get rid of the horror stuff and make the romance element a bit more interesting.
Yeah, I would actually probably say that too, which is again pretty odd for me because I do like horror. And actually, this is taken aback. Like one of the episodes, he said like, oh, you can sit through a schlocky action film with Jason Statham. I think for me, and this is when I was hanging out with Risky the other night, we watched some like pretty bad Taiwanese horror movie on Netflix. I think it was called The Bridge Curse or something. I saw that advertised on Netflix. With friends, I can sit through like a pretty average Asian horror film with like just the right amount of wine and just drinks, and I can sit there and just watch like a bad Asian horror. I think I find those the most like entertaining out of my guilty pleasures. But I think with this one I was more interested in the romance aspects of the film.
Yeah, I think there's more emotion in those scenes, right? Like those are the scenes that tended to make me feel a bit more. And I think it does kind of stick the landing as well. Like, I guess the resolution is quite sentimental. And it does make you feel a bit warm and, It's a pretty feel-good movie. Like I would definitely recommend watching this film with like a partner or something. You can just have a warm night. Just, I guess, be wary of the horror elements. Yeah, it's not that scary. I think it's like an entertaining level of scares.
But I think I know some people who just cannot stomach any kind of like horror at all. Like even just a glimpse of like a ghost or something. If you're scared of if you're like the slightest frightened of supernatural things, you probably can't watch this movie. But I think I think overall it's a really easy movie to watch. It's very entertaining. It does kind of almost marvel itself out in the end. Like they had to have a big CGI battle. I was like, because I remember reading like Giddens Ko is actually I think he said in an interview that he's actually influenced by a lot of American films, like Hollywood movies. So he prefers that style, which is you can see how like the over production of Marvel stuff is bleeding into these like pretty talented Asian directors.
I was hoping for a more martial artsy kind of climax to it, but
but it's just a CGI battle. That's basically But I did like the cicada little story. I think that was a nice touch. Yeah, it's a nice touch, but like just thinking about it, that whole warlord stuff was just kind of overstuffed the movie. I think it would have been better like once the girlfriend's character was established. I think it would have just been more interesting to follow, like maybe Pinky's jealousy, maybe have that carry a bit more weight rather than just kind of just her. She's just basically there to be cute for the rest of the movie.
Because they did have chemistry, I feel like Alan and Pinky. So it's a bit of shame that they wasted it.
Because Gingo, from what I've seen, she usually plays like brooding roles. So I think this was the first time that I'd seen her be like really super cutesy. So it was like, and she did it pretty well. Like, there's that scene like, where they had to kind of get chemistry. She does like this really ugly looking kiss, but then because she's just naturally cute, it's like, oh shit.
Actually, we're in love now.
But like you kind of buy it because like, it's like,
I like the soundtrack. I like some of the songs in it. It kind of just reminded me of like that old school, almost like a Jay Chow EP,
Oh yeah. In Run Monsters, like the soundtrack reminds me of like Linkin Park. So like I think Giddens is pretty in touch with his musical taste. And once again, Baby Metal's in it. I think it's the first movie where I've seen Baby Metal being used, so that's pretty cool. And I think it kind of suits the aesthetic of the movie well. So it's like, not like that other TV series that we watched with unfitting soundtrack. But yeah, I'm not too sure if I got that much more to say about this
I
one.
think it's a solid film. I would, I think it's a strange one because it's there's kind of like a mixture of tones and elements in it. Like, it might be similar to something like a Beetlejuice because Beetlejuice has some horror elements in there as well. And there's also the emotional side of it. So I feel like if you enjoyed that movie, you'll probably enjoy this one.
Yeah, maybe I'm not giving people enough credit for how much people can stomach. It's funny because I'm there going, oh, you should watch The Sadness. But I'm like, with this movie, I'm like, oh, yeah, if you're not into horror.
Yeah,
like,
I think it's just because they're such a mixture of different things. Like, you might go into it thinking that it's just going to be a straight-up rom-com, where it's not really that. I mean, it is that, but it's also, some of it's not that. You don't want to get blindsided by the horror elements, I guess.
Yeah, but I think Asian rom-com and American rom-coms are quite different. As you said, I think I prefer the Asian ones like a lot more. I think there's less like shit humor in it,
Sure.
Like, I'm not going to go on that rant again.
I feel like the characters are usually more interesting. I mean, I don't want to generalize it, but I feel like in Asian rom-coms, they're generally more interesting for some reason. They're not all Mark Ruffalo.
They're not all, I don't know, what's that
Rachel
actress?
McAdams?
Yeah, I guess so, Rachel McAdams. They're not all Kate Hudson. I guess that she was the early. They're not all J-Lo.
She had a recent one out. With Owen Wilson for some reason.
I remember you sent me the trailer and you're like, this movie looks horrible. Apparently it's not bad. Like, I read some reviews, but like, I don't reckon I'd like it. I just watched the trailer. I'm like, nah, it's not. It's
got Maluma in it.
Who's that?
Maluma. He's a singer songwriter, I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Cool. It looks bad, but maybe it's not.
I don't even remember that. What's it called? Like Sweet
Marry
Dreams?
Me.
Marry Me. Yeah, completely like, there you go. Marry Me.
But anyway, this movie, Till We Meet Again, pretty good. Not bad.
Yeah. I
think it's got some interesting mythology and world building in there too. So that was pretty cool. I dig it.
And some pretty fun performances as well from the leads.
I find it interesting that they need 20 white beads to reincarnate as a human, but 21 white beads to reincarnate as a cat.
I saw that in the credits. Yeah. Maybe, I don't know, they like cats over there. Might be a cultural thing.
I guess cats are treated pretty well. Maybe better than some humans.
I've seen some movies and read some novels where cats are treated pretty shit.
Okay. I'm just basing it off Instagram. all the cats on Instagram are having a great time. They're having the time of their lives. So
they're just freaking out.
They don't go to work. They don't,
That's true. I guess that's why.
And scritched.
All right, I think we can wrap this one up now.
Cool. What did you think of these movies if you watched them, guys? Did you watch any other films during the Taiwanese Film Festival? Any recommendations for us? Let us know. You can get in touch with us at twoasianblokes@gmail.com. You can join our Facebook group to be part of the conversation, or you can follow us on Instagram at twoasianblokes to see what we're up to. Thank you, as always, for listening, guys.
Yeah. Good movies for a change. And, next time we'll sell out again next time.
We don't know what we're doing next, but it'll probably involve us selling out.
Korean Film Festival's coming up.
Okay.
And there's quite a number of movies I want to watch from there. And obviously Decision to Leave, which I saw at MIF, and I think we'll dedicate an episode to that, because I really want to talk about that movie. I had a pretty interesting experience with that film.
Okay. I'll have to watch it.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Until then.
Yeah, take care of yourselves.
See you later.
Bye.